Welcome back to Pop Beat Breakdowns. In today's video, we're going to be breaking down a chill synth pop type beat that I recently made for my beat store. My name is Joe Gorchi and I'm a music producer from the UK, and the whole purpose of this channel is a different way to learn music production. As someone who took the academic route of learning music production at university, I also found that one of the best ways to learn music production was actually watching music producers break down their own beats and then trying to replicate them results for myself, or trying little tips and tricks that they gave as a way of refining my craft. So smash that subscribe button right now if you are new to the channel. Thank you so much. We recently passed 200 subscribers, by the way. So with all the mandatories out the way, let's get into Logic and let's break down this beat. Okay, so we're now in Logic and looking at the project. One of the things I always say very early on in this video is I always order the instrumentation in the order I added it, so you can get the best idea of how I built this production. Now, the reason why I wanted to do this production today, not only because I feel like this is very much in the influence of Lauv and Lany, more especially type B, that sort of indie pop, synth pop vibe, but also there's a couple of things on the chords which really make it sound a lot more interesting, and almost that sort of jazzy sort of chord, which if those of you who maybe don't know so much about actually recording in certain chords and making them sound like the way they are, this might be beneficial to you. Now, this is what I mean by jazzy. Is we have a listen to what I've got here. Firstly, is the first thing I added, the electric piano. Now, this is just a standard G, A, B minor, and then I think there's a D. But I've used 6th and 7th chords to make these sound a hell of a load more interesting. So just have a listen to this chord pattern and see what I mean. It just sounds so much more pretty. And if we open the piano roll, I'm going to show you the chords. What's really handy about Logic and the piano roll is you can see exactly what chords I've played here. I'll try and make this as big as possible so you can really visually see. Now, if I was to play say like a G chord, we'll play it down here. So this is the G chord here, these 3 notes. And this is the G chord at the start. So if I just left it how it was, you'd see this would be my triad for a G. You'd have your G, your B, and D. But I've also thrown this a 6th in. So this is the 6th in the scale. So this is an E, which doesn't really fit into the scale, but this is what it looks like. And it makes this really nice jazzy sound. So let's first play the triad, your G chord, which you know. So that's the G. Now I'm going to throw in that 6th again. How much cooler does that sound? So, and then it's the same with an A. So here's an A chord, which is here. This is our A. But this time I've thrown in this chord to make it add 11. So this time I just added the D to the A. If you want to, because this is a chord pattern you can replicate for yourself. This is what I mean about watching and then doing this for yourself. Because for those who don't know theory, literally I don't either, but I just find if I play something that's nice, it sounds good, then it probably is good. So basically all I'm doing is retaining the D off to the A. So if I play my G6, and then if I go up to A, but I literally just move my 1st and 3rd fingers to play the A, you've still got it. And then we can again keep these 2 down and go to the B minor. And then I need to actually remember what I played for the D. And the D is exactly the same. So basically the one thing that I've done is just keep holding down this D and E, and it creates this really nice, again, jazzy pattern. So let's just quickly play this. So basically, if you want to play this for yourself, just play your G, your A, your B minor and D, but always have the D and E playing with them. You can see that's the only thing that's constant throughout when the chords change. So yeah, so with that sort of explained the best way I could, the simplest, because it's very hard to explain theory sometimes, especially if someone doesn't know theory. But that's how I created that really cool pattern. So now we can get into the basic stuff and how I built this track. So the sort of vibe I wanted to go for, I always, sometimes, most of the time, I'd say, like to play the drums in quite early on to get a feel for the rhythm. So again, very simple drum beat. This is Logic's drum machine. which you would assume you use a lot on this channel. And I've just selected the big boom, kick, neon snare, and the tight trap hi-hat, which again, these are all Logic presets. And it's just a very simple beat. We're already starting to get a vibe, so I thought at this point it would make sense to add the bass in. The bass for this, again, is Logic. I tried to keep this as Logic as possible because I understand not everyone has third-party plugins. So got the 90s stereo synth bass, which can be found in the synth bass preset of the catalog library for instruments. And then we've got the classic analog bass as well on top of this. This is a retro synth preset, so if you go on the retro synth in Logic, classic analog bass, there it is, and this is one of my favourite bass sounds. So the reason why I've got two basses, one of them, this is covering the low end, almost sort of like the sub, and then this is more the rhythmic side. So I'll just quickly play you just the sub. So this is the sub. You might have to have headphones on to hear this. And then we're combining that with this classic analog synth bass. Very simple on the beat and on the root note, but when you put this all together, you get something that sounds a lot more complete. Nice. So moving along, we've then got our bright synth strings, because this is I wanted to be synthetic, so I wanted synth strings, and I'm a big fan of synth strings or synth brass. I feel like there's one or two ways you can go normally when you're doing a sort of synth pop song, and we are very much sticking within Logic presets for this. So we've got the strings, we've got the bright synth string, we've got the jitter strings, and the synth pop strings, which are all in the synth strings preset library in Logic on the side here. So to keep things a little bit spicy, I've got these playing octaves of Ds, just so it sounds a little bit almost samey, but it's harmonizing constantly with the chord. Because remember, as I said for them chords at the start, the recurring note throughout is a D. So holding down D here just adds to harmonizing every chord. And you'd think by itself that doesn't sound very nice, but again, it's all about context. So if I play everything so far, it doesn't sound so bad. And then I go up to an E just so it's not consistent throughout. And then I needed something a lot more melodic just to make it sound more interesting and have a bit more movement and have a sort of a counter melody going on. So there's basically our synth pop element really sticking out in the mix. So with all that we have so far, then it's really starting to sort of play around the rhythmic, add a lot more movement to the track. So I added some muted guitar in, which this is Contact Electric Mint. This is a recent purchase of mine, no regrets at all, and I just chucked in some muted guitar. Very simple, again, just something to add a little bit of, I call it a counter rhythm, just to keep the track moving and like have lots, again, movement in the track. So the next thing that I found very obvious to add was an 80s FM piano, which is in the classics section, and it's just, again, great with the chords we've got laid down. I've got one melodic and one more chord. I feel like this was kind of trying to set the scene with this one. I mean, I think it's very pretty, and that's kind of the reason why I wanted to have it in. It's very delicate, it's very bright, and something that I thought was kind of lacking in the high end was the more delicate sound, because the synth strings were a little bit harsh, so I just want something a little bit more quaint in the top end to really help add a whole range of ambience to this track, because that's what really makes, especially like Lany type beats, that sort of soundscape of many different textures going on sometimes you hear, which adds like that warmth yet brightness at the same time. So this instrument I felt really brought it through. And when you put it all together, the only last thing I've added is some white noise risers just to give a little bit of transition to sections. You have yourself a song very in this style. So I will play this from the pre-chorus and you can have a listen to this track now for yourself. So guys, that is the video. If you enjoyed this video, smash the subscribe button as it is the best way to support the channel. And if you enjoyed this beat as well, you can download this for free for non-profit use on my beat store in the link below. But yeah guys, till the next video, keep making music and I will see you in the next video.